We should never take impeachment off the table. We should never take where we see law breaking. We should never take accountability off the table.
This nonsense from like AOC that he should be impeached is just absurd. Absurd. There's no... Okay, get back to me when you've read the Constitution or get a law degree, because you sound like an absolute...
Megyn Kelly detonated a moment so intense it felt like the entire stage tilted off its axis. This wasn't a routine rebuttal. It was a full-scale blast ripped from a Hollywood thriller. AOC, normally commanding every spotlight, suddenly looked caught in a storm with nothing but a paper fan for cover. Then came the turn that locked the room in stunned silence. Absolutely no one expected it. After this scorched earth clash, seeing AOC the same way is no longer possible.
There is absolutely no ground to impeach the president. He 100% was within his constitutional authority and his congressionally authorized authority to do what he did on Saturday. Okay, but as for whether it's a good idea, that's a debate we should be having. And look, you know, if we could get congressional approval of the specific action, fine, I'm okay with that too. If you want to bring it to Congress, go ahead and see how that goes. I don't think it's necessary, but...
Megyn Kelly fixed the spotlight squarely on AOC, and what followed was anything but calm. It erupted into a full confrontation, with one side walking in completely unprepared for what was coming. Kelly didn't just highlight minor cracks in AOC's polished image. She tore right through it, slicing it apart with the reckless precision of a child dragging scissors across brand new wallpaper.
Check in on AOC and see what she has to say.
Reaction on what's going on with Elon Musk and President Trump on Twitter right now.
Oh man, the girls are fighting, aren't they? I think this breakup we've been seeing a long time coming, but we'll see what the impacts are of it legislatively.
Okay. You're so cool referring to them as the girls. She's above it all, Ben. That's what she's trying to telegraph. You see, she's the adult in the room, the one out there who does a preacher accent. And she leans into her fake Latina accent. And like, she's the adult in the...
If you are enjoying this fiery takedown, please hit that subscribe button. She went from a bubbly Instagram live regular, laughing with fans and casually sipping wine, to standing completely still under Megyn Kelly's cutting stare, looking like she just realized the Wi-Fi password had been changed without warning right in front of her.
There's the true radical left, who's gone beyond all the identity issues. I mean, don't get me wrong. The person I'm going to show you is 100% wrapped in all of them, but like genuinely believes the Hitler fascist stuff, like is distraught because they really think Hitler just got reelected. Most of them were just pretending, but then there are the ones who genuinely believe it, like AOC.
We are about to enter a political period that will have consequences for the rest of our lives. Donald Trump has talked about turning the military on U.S. citizens that he deems his domestic political enemies.
Here's the blunt reality about AOC. Her entire approach runs on vibes alone. There's no solid backbone of hard facts or clear plans. It's social media theater wrapped in dramatic gestures. Viewers aren't tuning in for deep policy breakdowns. They show up because she can turn a fast 30-second clip into something that feels like a TED Talk colliding headfirst with a Broadway show.
AOC has been out there on this, I don't know if it's campaign trail, I don't know what we're calling it, but this like fight the oligarchy tour with Bernie Sanders, from which, you know, venue to venue, she travels first class, sipping her champagne, you know, in the first class cabin as the losers and plebs walk by to coach. They're the ones she's really fighting for. And she's decided to ramp up her anti-Trump rhetoric in a way she's done before, but that could be deeply problematic for her if Trump actually decides to pay some attention to her.
But Megyn doesn't deal in theatrics. She strikes with a level of precision that makes even the most confident politicians start doubting their own script. And that's exactly what happened here. AOC walked in expecting her usual routine to land. Sweeping gestures, fiery delivery, maybe a clever comparison meant to go viral. Megyn shut it down immediately. She took apart every claim step by step until AOC looked less like a seasoned lawmaker and more like a student scrambling through a last-minute book report. The brilliance of Megyn's takedown was the method. No cheap shots, no flashy drama, just facts, focus, and razor-sharp logic slicing through AOC's talking points faster than glitter disappearing in a washing machine. The audience didn't just react, they froze. Watching Megyn calmly strip away AOC's polished image felt like trying to assemble IKEA furniture with no instructions and missing parts. And the moment that sealed it, the self-styled voice of the people, known for charm, confidence, and designer sneakers, suddenly looked shockingly ordinary.
report today that AOC may be getting ready to run for president, that her team is looking, and I know you've said she could potentially do it, but her team is looking at maybe Senate. Chuck Schumer is, I think, going to be 78 when he runs for re-election. That's really old, and the Democrats seem to get that now. Or she might just go for president. And at the same time, this happened today. The Republicans in the House introduced a resolution to honor Charlie Kirk. It condemns the murder and it prays.
AOC's image is controlled so tightly, it makes an Apple product launch look like an open mic night. But Megyn didn't just spot the cracks, she blew them wide open for everyone to see. In seconds, AOC's polished "I'm the future" routine stopped looking like destiny and started feeling like a failed audition that somehow slipped onto C-SPAN. And here's where it really stung. It wasn't only about policy. Megyn went straight after the performance itself, the layer everyone else was too nervous to touch. While others bickered over talking points, Megyn yanked back the curtain on the act. The dramatic hand waves, the perfectly timed pauses, the bursts of emotion that felt practiced down to the second. It was like exposing the Wizard of Oz, only to find someone with a microphone and a fog machine pretending to be larger than life. Once you saw it, there was no going back. The reactions were priceless. Half the audience locked in disbelief, the other half laughing in shock. Somewhere, a Brooklyn barista was probably still defending AOC's brilliance, even as she was getting flattened in real time. But it didn't matter anymore. The illusion was gone. Megyn laid it bare. The emperor wasn't just without clothes. She was trying to return them for store credit. And the timing? Perfect. AOC had been thriving in influencer politics, where a clever comeback substitutes for real change. And Megyn shut that illusion down on the spot.
Of course he's lying and abusing and manipulating the stock market too. When he talks about rapists and criminals, he should look in the mirror.
Clearly saying that Donald Trump is a racist. Rapist. She also thinks he's a racist. He's all the ists. But here, she's in deep trouble because he was not found liable for rape. And George Stephanopoulos just had to pay ABC some $15 million to President Trump to settle a defamation lawsuit.
When Megyn called her out, the truth landed like a thunderclap. Comebacks only work when there's real substance behind them. Without that, it's just noise, a blur of political jazz hands flailing in midair. And here's where it really burned. AOC likely assumed she could handle it the usual way. Flip the script, play the victim, rally her base, toss in a few hashtags. This time, that playbook failed completely. Politicians get pressed on policy every day, but how often do they get exposed for the performance itself? That's where Megyn hit dead center. She turned AOC's biggest strength, her grip on attention, into the very thing that undid her. All the theatrics that once felt magnetic suddenly looked forced, even desperate. And in politics, nothing collapses faster than the image of someone trying too hard. By the end, Megyn didn't just win the exchange. She altered the way people saw AOC, because once you notice that the so-called voice of the people sounds like she's auditioning every time she grabs a microphone, you can't unsee it. It's like discovering your favorite action hero never did the stunts themselves, and the illusion shatters instantly.
There's AOC, who said the following.
And beliefs were ignorant, uneducated, and sought to disenfranchise millions of Americans, far from the working tirelessly to promote unity, unquote, asserted by the majority in this resolution.
Then she voted no. She refused to join in the resolution. Consequences to her politically for doing that?
I would love to have her run for president of the Democratic side. It's a contrast, right? What you see is what you get. If that's what you think can lead this country, is that where your values are? Is that what you think will continue to promote American freedom and liberty?
Here's the real twist. This wasn't even Megyn at full throttle. This was Megyn on an ordinary day, coffee in hand, casually taking apart a politician like it was nothing more than a warm-up. Picture the fallout if she ever went all in on AOC. At that point, it wouldn't resemble an interview at all. It would be a full political teardown delivered with a calm smile. Because once Megyn locks that spotlight on someone, the internet refuses to look away. Memes flood timelines, late-night hosts scramble for angles, and frantic aides rush to clean up up the mess. Spoiler, it never works. At this stage, AOC's safest move might be to fully embrace the act, break into show tunes on the house floor, jazz hands included. At least then the laughs would be intentional instead of accidental. But after Megyn's strike, the curtain came down hard. The illusion cracked wide open. Suddenly, people were asking the question out loud, wait, was this all just a performance? The most shocking part was how fast the energy shifted the moment Megyn pulled AOC under that microscope. Seconds earlier, she looked untouchable, the internet's golden icon who could do no wrong.
And the reason this is relevant is because a congresswoman who you may know as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been telling us for years that she is from the Bronx. And recently she had a fight with President Trump over tweet, text, truth, whatever. And she played tough and said, oh, don't you mess with me. I'm a Bronx girl. And we eat Queens boys for breakfast, because that's where Trump was raised, in the Queens. And respectfully, AOC. Well, that's real cute, except she only lived in the Bronx until she was age 5.
She could fumble a policy point, tangle her metaphors, or throw out over-the-top analogies about billionaires swallowing planets. And the crowd would still roar like she'd just finished a Broadway curtain call. But Megyn wasn't there to applaud. She punctured the illusion, and the confidence leaked out in one long, uncomfortable hiss. That's the harsh reality of performance politics. It only survives as long as the audience keeps buying the act. And with surgical accuracy, Megyn dragged every string into full view. Picture AOC launching into her trademark delivery, the wide-eyed stare, the perfectly timed pauses, the sweeping hand motions cutting through the air like a conductor leading an unseen orchestra. Usually it works. People soak it up, but this time, with Megyn exposing the pattern, every move looked rehearsed, almost mechanical. It was like watching a magician repeat the same trick after you already know where the card is hidden. Impressive once, awkward the next. You could almost see the realization hit AOC in real time. Her entire brand depends on control of the mood, the message, and the impact behind every carefully calculated glance and gesture.
The rest of her childhood, 1 through 12th grade, in Yorktown Heights, which is Westchester. And by any measure, it is richer, nicer, and more white collar than the Bronx, with all due respect to my friends in the Bronx. She's pretending to be a Bronx girl because she wants this to be part of her origin story, the same way as she wants now to be called Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Once Megyn ripped that control away, everything started to cave in. In a flash, AOC no longer looked like a fearless figure taking on the world. She looked like a nervous performer blanking under a harsh spotlight. Megyn moved calmly, dismantling the script piece by piece, calling out each exaggerated gesture and making the unraveling even more painful to watch. AOC thrives on having villains. She needs opponents who look over the top or hostile to keep her momentum alive. But what happens when the person across from her just smiles and points out that the emperor is waving jazz hands in an empty room? There's no explosive clash then, only silence, followed by the slow, unmistakable hiss of credibility slipping away. Her supporters rushed online to do damage control, flooding social media with threads longer than short novels, twisting logic to insist she wasn't exposed, that Megyn was unfair, that none of it mattered. But here's the irony. The louder they yelled, the more obvious the damage became, because when it takes a 42-part thread to explain why someone wasn't embarrassed, they absolutely were.
Everyone knew her as Sandy Cortez when she was growing up, and her lies are coming to the fore. So, among other things, Benny Johnson, who's hilarious, and he's a great Twitter follow and has a great show, went to Yorktown Heights just to take a look and to talk to some folks there about AOC and what Yorktown is like and so on. And now some of her schoolmates, separate and apart from Benny, are weighing in on her claims.
Meanwhile, Megyn leaned back and let the fallout play out, probably sipping her coffee like someone calmly surveying a job already done. That's the power of a clean takedown. You only need one precise strike if it hits hard enough to echo. The clips kept looping, memes flooded every corner of the internet, and with each replay, AOC's performance looked worse than the last. It was almost poetic, like a gymnast nailing a flawless triple flip only to stumble during the final bow. Nobody remembers the flips. They remember the fall. The media ripple was impossible to ignore. Outlets that once rushed to protect AOC suddenly started hedging, quietly admitting maybe she does rely too much on theatrics. Oh, now they see it. After years of dramatic speeches and carefully staged social media monologues, it took Megyn flipping on a giant neon spotlight for people to finally say it out loud. The timing was perfect. It felt like a packed theater where everyone pretends a bad movie is brilliant until one voice says, "Wait, this is awful," and suddenly the entire room nods in agreement.
Fourth place, not necessarily fourth place. This is just, I'm going to start with as the fourth possibility, but I've got 4 total and you'll decide what order they go in. I'm going to kick it off with AOC. Okay. Her real name is Sandy Ocasio. This is what she went by her entire life, Sandy Ocasio. And only when she decided to run for office did she decide to suddenly become Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and lean into her Puerto Rican history, where her mother was born in Puerto Rico, but her father was born in New York City. And she decided to tell us sob stories about how she's from a poor family and she was living, paycheck to paycheck. Meanwhile, she was raised in a Tony part of Westchester called Yorktown Heights.
The memes finish the job. The internet doesn't care about nuance. It lives for punchlines. And Megyn handed it a full banquet. Clips of AOC's dramatic hand waves looped endlessly with circus-style soundtracks, while her long pauses replayed as painfully awkward silences that made viewers squirm. Screenshots froze her mid-expression, stamped with captions like, "Award-worthy drama, zero policy." Once the internet locks in, credibility isn't just bruised, it's roasted, packaged, and archived forever. From that point on, everything changed. Every gesture looked rehearsed. Every pause felt staged. Every emotional appeal sounded less like real politics and more like an audition monologue. That's when the illusion finally cracked wide open. AOC's carefully built image shattered. Her supporters scrambled to tape it back together, and the media quietly admitted what they'd suspected for a long time. Meanwhile, Megyn stood firm, the one who pulled the mask off the performance. And here's the real kicker. This wasn't even a grand showdown. No roaring crowd, no dramatic finish, just the cold realization that no one was buying the act anymore. The wires were exposed, the props were visible, and the person under the spotlight suddenly looked like they were trying far too hard. That was the takedown no one else dared to deliver, until Megyn did.